This is the most unfortunate hero I've ever seen. Even though he single-handedly drove back the Demon King's army and defeated the Demon King himself without breaking a sweat, victory brought him no cheers or celebration. Instead, his overwhelming power made the people fear him so much so that they began to worry he might become the next Demon King. The king, consumed by that fear, sent assassin after assassin to take him out. Not that any of them stood a chance against James, but the betrayal cut him deep. Driven by the desire to get back at the kingdom and the king who turned on him, James pushed open the gates of the Demon King's castle. He was done with humanity. He wanted in with the demon army. Standing before the very Demon King and 4 heavenly kings he had once defeated, James pulled back his hood and made his intentions clear. The 4 heavenly kings and the Demon King immediately assumed he was there to finish the job. But to everyone's surprise, James simply introduced himself. He laid it all out: his mastery of swordsmanship and magic, his track record of going one-on-one against the Demon King and winning clean. He'd done his homework on the demon army and knew their biggest problem was being short-staffed. With him on board, he'd be worth an entire army on his own. After that confident little pitch, James stood there fully expecting to be welcomed in with open arms. Instead, he got the Demon King's fury. To be fair, walking into someone's house and calling out their weaknesses to their face isn't exactly the best way to land a job. But even after getting shot down by the Demon King, James wasn't about to give up. He tracked down the 4 heavenly kings and made his grievances known. What possible reason could they have to turn him away? Sure, all 4 of them had been beaten by James before. And yeah, they each ruled as undisputed powerhouses in their own domains, but James was just that strong. Even now, they were all still living under his shadow. Curious about what could drive someone like James to want to join the demon army, they asked him what was going on. James told them everything. The room went quiet with sympathy. Betrayed by the very people he had devoted himself to protecting honestly, that was reason enough. Luna, the leader of the 4 heavenly kings, agreed to consider James's request, but not without a test of loyalty first. She handed him an assignment on the spot: recharge the magic furnace in the city. This was no small task. The furnace could only be recharged by its original creator. Anyone else who tried to channel their magic into it would trigger an explosion. But to James, it was nothing. Using harmonization magic to mirror the original creator's magical wavelength would solve the whole problem. James confidently told her he'd wrap it up within 2 hours. Luna wasn't buying it. Even she needed 3 full days to handle it on her own. There was no way he could pull it off in 2 hours. James just grinned and promised her that in 2 hours, she'd be totally blown away. Luna didn't give his words a second thought. James shrugged, cast a quick spell to change his outfit, and headed out. Not even 30 minutes later, he was back saying he was tired and needed to rest for a bit. Luna wasn't surprised. Recharging the furnace was exhausting work, after all. But then James casually mentioned he'd already finished. Luna figured he was just making excuses to slack off, so she went to drag him back to work. James countered by casting a gravity spell on himself, pinning himself to the spot. Watching him waste magic on something that ridiculous was the last straw for Luna. She was convinced he'd only joined the demon army to mess with her. When she raised her hand to blast him with a spell, James actually panicked because he genuinely wasn't lying. Right then, there was a knock at the door. A young girl stepped in, unclasped the pendant around her neck, and told James that everything had gone smoothly. As it turned out, during those 30 minutes James had stepped out. He hadn't gone straight to recharge the furnace. Instead, he'd gotten hold of an amethyst crystal and carved Luna's magical wavelength into it. Whoever wore the crystal would emit the exact